Did you know TFT is pay to win? I've been investigating this problem for years now, and I can finally say that I managed to accumulate enough evidence to make a case for it. But just before we dive into the shocking content, I'm willing to bet that you can't subscribe to this channel before this Nunu cleans up the board. Are you ready? Go!
Come on, do it! Yes, yes!
And hey, even if you didn't make it, I still appreciate your support. Let's get started. Of course, the first point we have to address are little legends. Every little legend is the same, fat chance. Introducing Chibi Annie, a harmless looking chibi with a pretty cool looking panda skin, but her emotes tell a different story. One of her emotes will spawn a huge chonk, and this is something that can be abused during the carousel. All you need to truly mess with your opponents is to increase your size by utilizing the augment Tiny Titans while also keeping a win streak. You can position yourself sideways and spawn the chonk in the carousel. He will be so large that he will block the units in the carousel, confusing your opponents, which can lead to you receiving a better item. Blocking your opponent's view in the carousel is one thing, but what if we take this even further and start to mess with the opponent's ability to scout? This is where one of the newest little legends comes into play, the Ultra Thread Whisker. Of course, he is behind a gacha system, and for good reason, because yet again, his emotes can give you an advantage. His last emote will spawn a huge table with him drinking something and ends with a bunch of spatulas spawning from his throne. This animation can get big. How big? Well, if you go back to the same setup of win streaking with Tiny Titans, you can effectively block most of your board. Position yourself next to your units and use the emote. This will especially mess up your opponents who are tapping through everyone and are trying to zephyr snipe you, since it will become much harder to figure out where you positioned your units. Another fact that is currently unknown to most players is that your resolution matters. A lot of players will end up playing the game on 1080p, and this is perfectly fine since you will be able to see everything relevant. When you visit the board of a different player, your little legend will appear, giving your opponent the information that you are currently scouting his board, which makes him aware that you might position against him. Lucky for us, there is another way to approach this. Some maps, for example the Grotto of the Secret Spa, have a path to the side that is much larger than what players with a 1080p resolution can see. All you have to do is walk to the edge of the map and your opponent can't see you anymore. Now you can plot all the evil schemes you have in your mind without your opponent knowing any better. Now, competitive TFT had its ups and downs, and we've seen a fair share of questionable decisions from Riot that ended up having a huge influence on the outcome of a match. But there's one well-hidden secret that competitive players don't want you to know, and it's about having better RNG if you play more expensive little legends. Yes, you heard that right. To prove my case, here's a short interview with a recent GC winner who wished to remain anonymous and talked a bit about the method he used to find success.
GC, day 1 and 2, I would always start out losing, and once I put on the Chibi-Yasu, I suddenly started to win. And in day 3, I started a day playing Chibi-Yasu, I won the entire thing, so yeah, I think the game is pay to win.
But this rabbit hole of game-winning little legends doesn't end here. It's been well established in the high elo scene that certain little legends are better than others at winning the carousel. Obviously, depending on who you ask, you will receive different answers, but I would say a clear theme everyone can agree on is that small little legends, for example the Mole Diver, work exceedingly well at sneaking past a barrier early and securing yourself the starting item you were aiming for. If a Mole Diver and a River Sprite aim for the same item, it becomes very clear that the River Sprite cannot compete, putting newer players at a considerable disadvantage. Now the next part will be controversial since we are about to take a glimpse into psychological warfare. Once you learn this, you can't unlearn it. So for the players who are pure of heart, I suggest you might want to skip this one. One of the most evil strategies a player can do is to visit an opponent's board when he is about to go for a large roll down. He will have to spend a lot of focus on his shop, so every distraction has the potential of tripping him up. Chibi Z, who is one of the newer little legends, is surprisingly pretty efficient at this. He has an animation that will cause him to flicker with his shadow clones in a never-ending animation, causing a severe distraction to the player who's rolling down. It is also possible to attack your opponent's ears, for example by spamming the lightning bolt from the Light Charger legend. Honestly, there are a lot more examples. In fact, why don't you tell me your favorite little legend to annoy your opponents in the comments? Now, I won't lie, going to the opponent's board and spamming emotes is a very disgusting method. So I think it's only fair that we talk about countermeasures. You as a player can defend yourself against toxic opponents by utilizing specific maps to blind them. The two prime examples for this are the maps Everything Goes On and the Splash Party Arena. The Star Guardian team map will transform when you push for level 7 into a pink gradient. This can be quite straining to your opponent's eyes, so it's unlikely they want to spend a lot of time on your board. The beach map, on the other hand, is a defensive map for night times, since players scouting your board will be temporarily blinded if they like to use darker themed maps. This comes a bit of a risk to your own eyesight, so it is somewhat recommended to use sunglasses when going for the strategy. For my next point, I'm going to include an honorable mention because it feels wrong to make a video about pay-to-win aspects in TFT without mentioning how it all started. All the way back in set 1, damage used to work a bit differently. When you took damage was actually the most important aspect. Tiebreakers were decided by how fast you lost your fight, not by how much HP you had in the end. Around this time, players noticed that some of the new Freyord maps you could buy in the shop were slightly larger than the other maps, and they had balconies where you could walk into the corner. This caused players in high elo to buy these maps, and every time they felt they could lose the fight and potentially die, they would run away into the corner to delay the damage as much as possible, since in some rare cases this would guarantee you a higher placement. As I established, Riot has a lot of tricks up their sleeve to entice you to spend money to find success in TFT, but I haven't mentioned the Battle Pass yet. It looks harmless at first glance, but don't be fooled, as it includes game-winning emotes. For example, in a previous set, you could receive the Bard Fanfare emote. Every high elo player is well aware that you can use this emote to break your opponent's spirit. By spamming the emote wheel button, you can horn your way to victory, but thankfully not every Battle Pass has a game-winning emote like this one. For my last point, I'm gonna cheat a bit and use a strategy that is well known in the League of Legends community. Players there have long figured out that buying RP will result in weaker opponents. This is why players preferred buying new skins when they had to play their promotion matches to ensure that Riot wouldn't match them with the average junk who would lose you the game. In TFT, this works a bit similar. You will be more likely matched up with tilted opponents, but at least for now, you still have to play out the game yourself. Now, just in case this flew over people's heads, I hope you're having a fun 1st of April, and why not tell me in the comments when you first started to suspect something was off. I hope you learned nothing, and see you next time.